I want you to think about something for a second. How is it possible that you can spend 2 hours scrolling on your phone and not feel tired at all? But after 10 minutes of studying, you suddenly feel like you haven't slept in 3 days? Seriously? Think about that. Because if the problem was energy, you should be tired before you start studying. But that's not what happens. You sit down feeling completely fine. You open your book, maybe solve a few questions, and then almost like someone flipped a switch, your brain starts shutting down, your eyes get heavy, you lose focus, and suddenly the idea of taking a 5-minute break sounds incredibly attractive. So naturally you assume maybe you're just not one of those students who can focus for hours. But there's a reason this happens. Actually, there are several. And one of them is so common that most students do it every single day. So we're going to break down what's really happening and how to fix it in a way that actually lasts. The first reason studying makes you tired is surprisingly simple. Your brain gets bored. Not because the subject is boring, but because of how you're studying it. Think about what most students do. They read, highlight, reread, and then reread again. It feels productive, but your brain isn't actually doing much work. It's just looking at information, and when your brain isn't challenged, it starts to switch off. That's why you can read an entire page and realize you don't remember a single thing. Your eyes were reading, but your brain checked out minutes ago, and once that happens, tiredness usually follows. Which brings us to the second reason, and this one affects almost every student today. The second reason is something most students never think about. Your brain has become addicted to speed. Every day you're switching between videos, notifications, messages, music, and social media. Your brain gets used to receiving something new every few seconds. Then you sit down to study, and suddenly nothing is happening. No notifications, no excitement, no instant rewards. Compared to everything else, studying feels painfully slow. And when your brain is used to constant stimulation, slow feels exhausting. That's why you can spend an hour on your phone and feel awake, but struggle to stay focused on a textbook for 10 minutes. The problem isn't that studying became harder. The problem is that your brain got used to easier stimulation. And the next reason is even more surprising, because it has nothing to do with your phone. The third reason you feel tired while studying is mental fatigue, and this one is sneaky, because you can be mentally exhausted without realizing it. Think about your average day: classes, assignments, social media, messages, worrying about exams, thinking about the future. Your brain is processing information almost nonstop. So when it's finally time to study, you're not starting with a full battery. You're starting with whatever energy is left. And that's why some students sit down to study and feel exhausted almost immediately, not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because their brain has been working all day, which raises an important question. If these are the causes, how do you actually fix them? So how do you stop feeling tired every time you study? The first fix is surprisingly simple. Stop studying passively. Instead of reading the same page over and over, close the book and try to remember what you just learned. Explain it in your own words. Pretend you're teaching a friend. Ask yourself questions, because the more your brain participates, the more awake it becomes. This is why active recall often feels harder, but actually keeps you more focused. Your brain wasn't designed to just consume information. It was designed to use it. And the next fix might be the most important one of all. Now, here's something that helped me personally. If my brain feels completely scattered before studying, I don't immediately open my textbook. Instead, I spend a few minutes doing almost nothing. No phone, no music, no videos. Sometimes I just sit quietly and look at a blank wall for a few minutes. The goal isn't the wall itself. The goal is giving your brain a break from constant stimulation. And when I finally start studying, focusing feels much easier. Another trick I use is when I know I should study, but my brain refuses to get started. Instead of reading silently, I read the concept out loud for a few minutes. Not perfectly, just loud enough to force my attention back onto the topic. And surprisingly often, Once I get through those first few minutes, studying starts feeling much easier. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't studying, it's getting your brain to switch into study mode. So if you're always tired when studying, remember this: the problem isn't always sleep, and it definitely isn't always laziness. Sometimes you're studying in a way that makes your brain switch off. Sometimes your attention is overloaded from constant stimulation. And sometimes you're simply mentally exhausted before you even open your book. The good news? All of those things can be improved. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need endless motivation. You just need a study system that works with your brain instead of against it. Start small. Study actively, reduce distractions, and give your brain time to focus again. The goal is to make studying easier to do consistently. If you learned something from this video, consider subscribing because I make videos that help students study better, focus longer, and stop struggling with the same problems over and over again. Thanks for watching. And the fact that you're trying to improve already puts you ahead of where you were yesterday.